Hello everyone that's here today and online, and thank you Doug for that lovely introduction. It's a real privilege to be here and speaking to you all today. This is my passion, so it's always lovely when you get to speak about your passion, I think. And hopefully I can share with you some of my wisdom today from particularly a supervisor's perspective. As Doug said, yes, I am an alumni of the Masters of Counselling 13 years ago. I consider it to probably be one of the best professional decisions I ever made. I started off in education. I was a teacher and loved it, and in my later teaching years did a lot of special education teaching, but I was one of those people that used to focus in on all the kids in the room that weren't okay, and I realised pretty quickly that I think it was my calling to become a therapist, and I haven't regretted it one bit. So coming from education, yes, I did the Masters of Counselling. As I said, I graduated 13 years ago and I was lucky enough to land the dream job in my eyes. I became the Director of Counselling at Woodley School, which is an independent school on the Mornington Peninsula. I was there for 11 years and then resigned last year to do my PhD and to also just sort of move a bit more into private practice, and also I do private supervision as well. So the Masters of Counselling certainly for me was such a platform onto a counselling career, and I certainly cannot recommend it highly enough, and I'm not being paid to say that. So I think one of the things that I understand is also I've had a Masters of Counselling students and psychology students on placement with me over a number of years, and so as well as being an MOC student and being someone that's had students on placement and now I'm a supervisor, I think I kind of sort of understand the three facets, if you like, of the course, and I certainly would be more than happy to support you in your endeavours in any way that I can. So don't hesitate to shoot me an email. I'm on the Monash email, and also I'm on LinkedIn as well. If you'd like to get in contact, if you've got any questions or any way I can support you in your journey, I'd be more than happy to do that. So what I wanted to mainly talk about today was probably two areas. First of all, about how to prepare for your placement. I do think from my personal experience it was probably the most beneficial part of the MOC course for me. The theory is very important, there's no doubt about it, but when you get to actually start applying the theory in practice, I think that's when the learning really starts. And it can be really daunting and you're not expected to be an expert. So that comes with time. So be kind to yourselves when you first start out on placement, because I do understand it can be pretty daunting and stressful. So I just sort of wanted to give you my top tips for placement preparation, and hopefully there's some things for you all to consider when you commence at some point in the year. So the first thing that I'd like to talk to you about is the role of supervisors, and I want you to think of us as your professional mentors. We're here to support you non-judgmentally, and I think it's a wonderful initiative that this course now has. It wasn't in place when I did the course, and I would have loved to have had the opportunity to have a supervisor, someone that could really sort of guide me through as I was learning all these new things that I was learning. Our role, I think, is about being teachers, supporters, sounding boards. We're in your corner. The best thing that you can do with us, I think, is be honest and let us know if there are any concerns or issues or anything that you need to talk out. That's one of our roles, certainly. The other thing that I think we do is we certainly guide you and make you aware of really sort of key processes in the professional counselling world. And there will be things that will happen sometimes on placement that might be really confronting or challenging for you on both a professional and personal level, and your supervisor is someone that you can access and talk to about these sorts of things. So as you're aware, there's two aspects to the supervision process in this course. One is you will have 20 hours of individual supervision. So if your placement cannot provide you with a supervisor, you might be allocated someone like me from Monash to do that for you. And you also will have 20 hours of group supervision. So this usually compromises 4 or 5 students. And depending on your supervisor, you might do that face-to-face here at Monash, or you might have Skype group supervision put in place. So just the kinds of things I do in my group supervision with MOC students is often we'll talk about things like specific client cases, we'll share experience, specific aspects of the counselling process, techniques, ethical and legal concerns, case notes, and it's a really lovely opportunity too to be able to sort of connect and support each other in the process. In individual supervision, there's certainly some similarities with group, but probably some of the distinct differences are I like to do quite a bit of role-playing and practising the skills with my supervisees, and they find that often quite helpful. We'll talk about different modalities that they might be interested in, as well as, of course, their cases and case notes, and also things like their sort of individual concerns or stresses, self-care, which is really important in this field, and most importantly, lots of encouragement. I think one of the key things I want you all to really be aware of is it's important to remember that supervision is not therapy. So if there's an aspect or a concern regarding your emotional well-being, your supervisor may recommend other avenues of support. We really encourage you to be honest with us if you're having a hard time and struggling, because we understand that this field can be quite challenging at times and can push your emotional buttons as well. But we will do our best to guide and support you to find other avenues that can assist you with those things. So don't feel that you can't raise them if you need to, but do understand that our role is not to be a therapist. I know Doug's mentioned before, and he probably will mention again, make use of the Monash counselling service here. Go as a guinea pig. I think it's a great suggestion, and it can really kind of help you see the perspective of what it's like to be a client, and I highly recommend you think about that at some point, definitely. And they, of course, can help you maybe with anything that you might need some support with. So that's sort of in a nutshell our role as your supervisor. And I suppose, as I said, if you think of us as professional mentors, we have a wealth of experience, and we're all very keen to support and share that with you as best as possible. Now comes to placement. And I think given what Doug and Sam have been talking to you about this afternoon in regards to finding placement can be a challenge. And I know for myself I did half of my placement at my current workplace, but then I had to find somewhere else, and it took a little bit of time. Do be patient and do be proactive. I know I've had MOC students cold call me and just say, hi, are you interested in taking someone on? And sometimes the timing's not right, but I know from being on that side, when someone's sending me their CV or Monash is sending me student details and people are coming in for an interview, absolutely treat it like a job interview. Take it seriously. It's competitive out there for placements, and you want to give yourself the best opportunity to have a really good one. So these are my kind of key tips before you commence placement. Firstly, I think it's very important to be across the Australian Counselling Association or the Psychotherapists and Counselling Federation of Australia, so ACA and PACFA's Code of Conduct. I think you need to have a good familiarity with that. And that's something as a supervisor that will be often one of my first questions to you is, have you looked at it? Have you read it? Are there any parts of it that you're not sure about? Remembering we're talking about professional counselling here, and I take that very seriously, and I think we have a responsibility to make sure that we're doing the right thing by our clients and also by our professional bodies. The second thing I would encourage you to do is when you find out where you're going on placement, find as much out as you can about that organisation. Come prepared. Again, as Elliot's shared with us, his placement experience is possibly leading to work, and I certainly have had a couple of supervisees where that's been the case. One just recently got a job last week from the place where she was on placement. And it's completely thrilling for her and me. I'm really excited for her that she's on her way into her professional counselling journey. So do be proactive, have questions, have things that you want to find out about, and be excited about the opportunity that's presenting itself to you. The other key thing is that as soon as you start with any of your organisations that you might be on placement with, please be proactive in asking about any of their crisis, emergency, critical incident, mandatory reporting policies and procedures. Sometimes organisations, they're hectic, busy places, and they'll be very encouraging of having you, but they might not think about these things. And I know of a situation where, not here at Monash, but a student was on a placement and there was actually a bushfire and within the vicinity of where the placement was, and that particular student wasn't actually sure about what they needed to do in that circumstance. So they got in their car and drove home, which I kind of think makes sense really on some levels. But it caused issues because that particular student, they had a role and they were trying to find out where they were. So again, just make sure you're across any of those things. It's really important. And sometimes organisations won't think to let you know. So be proactive in asking. The next thing I think is really important, particularly before you start working with clients, is to be very clear about what I call the 3 C's, which is confidentiality, consent, and contract. So depending on the organisations that you're working for and the types of clients that you have, those 3 areas I think are really important that you have across in your mind how you might need to explain to your client those aspects of the counselling process. Again, as a supervisor, this is something I'll often run through my supervisees with individually and help them find their language a bit with that. It can be really helpful just to grab a friend, grab a relative, sit them in a chair and just practice talking those things out to them. That can be a good thing to do a few times till you get a bit more comfortable and familiar with the way that you need to talk about those important aspects of the counselling process. As Elliot said, immerse yourself in the experience, be a part of the organisation. They're dynamic. Take any opportunities you get presented with and run with it. You'll learn things, you'll meet people, it'll give you a deeper sense of what that organisation is doing. And again, it's just another opportunity for learning. Pitch in, offer to make a cup of tea, offer if appropriate to do some filing or photocopy some resources for clients. It's not expected, but it certainly is appreciated. And again, you know, there might be times where things are a bit you're in a bit of a lull. So again, try and make yourself useful. It's not an expectation that this is what you're doing all the time, of course, on your placement, and we want you to have contact hours with clients. But organisations, as I said, are busy places, and an extra pair of hands is always so welcome. So think about that perspective. Again, show enthusiasm, talk to the therapists, counsellors that you might be working with, ask them questions about their process and their practice. Therapists love talking about it. We love to get to share what we do and why we do it. So don't hesitate in asking us lots of questions. Do be patient in regards to contact hours. Sometimes that can be a bit of a slow build for some organisations, again, depending on their processes and policies and their client base. And I know I've had students where that can be a bit frustrating because you're all eager to get in and start the work. It's a bit of a balance to find between sort of being patient and then starting to be a bit assertive and trying to make sure that you are getting clients and getting contact hours. If this is proving to be a problem, talk to your supervisor about it. And of course, Doug and Sam and Jamie are there to help too. nearly done. I think for me, I often get my supervisees to make a list of the things that they want to learn more about, the questions that they have, the modalities they're kind of aware of, and then the ones that they might be interested in learning more about. So really have a sense of what you want your placement to be too, because it is about you and your professional learning, and you want to get the most out of it. And sometimes you can be in an organisation and you're just sort of moving along with that organisation, but have those moments to stop and reflect and make sure you're getting the most out of your experience. Again, use the client work as an opportunity to develop those micro skills. So building rapport, active listening, effective questioning, motivational interviewing, all those sorts of things that you need to be learning as therapists. Use the opportunity to try and get practice in with those things. And add tools to your toolkit. So again, talk to the people around you. Ask for recommendations. What kinds of books would you recommend? Is there any research I could have a look at? Do you have any resources I could photocopy or I could borrow? You become a bit of a magpie when you become a counsellor, and it's a bit like being a teacher as well, where you just collect things. But you never know when these things might come in handy or be useful to you, and of course your clients as well. So I think for me, just to finish off, some of the qualities that I encourage you all to draw on to get the most out of your placement experience is, number one, be empathetic, be adaptable, client-centred, enthusiastic, be aware of your limitations and possible biases is really important. Commit to the lifelong learning of what I call the counselling craft, because you never stop learning in this job. Be organised. Have a clear, as much as possible, understanding of legal and ethical aspects to the work. If you're unclear, ask. A sense of humour is really important, and an ability to bounce back, because some days might be tough. Awareness of your own good self-care when you need to be gentle and kind. And an ability to critically reflect on your practice and seek support, because that's what we're all here to do, support you through the journey. So I wish you all the best, and thank you for your time today.